Once you've filed all the burrs off in the previous video, you then need to just make sure you've got the finish all the way around all the other edges, like this. Make sure you've got a good, nice finish. And again, it's useful to make sure that you just take those burrs off again on the edges like that. Once you've gone around the entire thing and done all the edges, what you're then going to want to do is to find a way of doing the surface, because you can see the surface there. If I show you in the light, it's not quite flat. It doesn't always cast perfectly. So what we're going to do, we're going to try and clamp it in here, bearing in mind how much space you've got to clamp it. That's not quite even, so I'm going to maybe clamp it that way. You can be quite clever with how you clamp it. If you clamp it too tight, what might happen is that piece might bend. Where it's thinner, it's weaker, and that might bend up. But once I've done that, I'm going to take my file, I'm going to file across it like this, and you should start to see that it starts to reveal which parts are higher. See, there's shinier there, and it's duller there. So we got the shiny bit, that's obviously higher. As you're filing, you're making it all an even height. So the idea is you do that on both sides to make sure you get the surfaces nice and flat and shiny. It takes a little while, and once you've done it with a file, you then need to crack on and get it done with some emery cloth as well. So I will work on that, and I'll start the next video when we have got the next stage, this stage completed, ready to move on with the emery cloth. One of the final stages is to, now that I've filed that across the front, you can see there's a shine on it. One thing I was going to make a note of was one part here, there's a little dent just there. That's been put in there by the casting process, and that's too far down for me to try and get out with the file. So I'm just going to have to leave that there as an imperfection, which is not ideal, but sometimes you just have to bear that in mind and check the mold next time you do it. You'll notice that I've been filing all in the same direction, but what that helps us to do is to keep it nice and uniform when we start to put the finish on it. So I'm going to use this stuff here, it's called emery cloth. Cloth on the back is rated the same way as glass paper. Each number is how many pieces of grit you get on each per square centimetre. And I'm just going to use this just to rub across the surface, just to even out that filing. And I'm going to move progressively down different parts of grit. Now, this might scratch up your acrylic a little bit, but it does tend to finish up nicely as you go. And you'll see that as you rub it, it gets quite grubby and quite dark and quite grey as the metal starts to be abraded away. So bear that in mind. So you do the surface, you want to do all the edges as well. If you put it in a vise, that might work well as well, but I'm just rubbing it by hand for now. Obviously, you'll do your edge surfaces. You want to get rid of all the markings that were put in there by your filing. So you can see the filing marks, the ones that go parallel, it's perpendicular across the workpiece. I'm trying to use this, going in this direction to rub those marks out. And don't forget also, you want to just take the very sharp corners off with this slightly rougher paper, cloth, emery cloth, just to make sure it feels nice to touch and is not going to have any sharp parts to snag or hurt you. So I'll keep going with that. Once I've done that, you move on to the finer paper, like a 600 grit, and you rub that against there in the same way, and that will make it even smoother. It'll start to give you a much more flawless finish with less imperfections from the actual. So you should be able to see there the difference between the part that I've been working on here. There's a few brush sort of rub marks in it, as opposed to the one here where with the file you can see a lot more stripes in it. So I'll keep going with that and show you the finished version, and then we're going to drill a hole in here to make sure we can hang it off something.